Hello everybody, welcome to episode 3 of my tutorial series for Factorio. I'm Icon and today we're going to dive into smelting and the first usages of assemblers. So in the last episode we've set up ourselves a nice little power supply. We set up a small steam engine, we set up electric mining, and with all the electricity we've started producing, I have successfully started running laboratories. So the first thing that I want to do today is amp up the power production, because we see here we might be not using much power yet, but in this episode, we're going to put up a lot of extra mining power and a lot of extra assemblers. Let's put those down here into the hotbar too. So we're going to need lots and lots of power. So let's do something about that. The boilers can be just sitting right next to each other like that. And we're pressing Q yet again to copy these things. And the only thing that's missing now is another inserter. So here's one thing that I want to show. A burner inserter is always also an option for these slots because the inserters might need fuel power to operate, and this thing here also needs fuel to operate. But here's the nifty thing. The burner inserter does not need fuel to move on his own. So he can move on his own to grab some fuel while he's basically not provided with any fuel. So these things are a nice sort of inserter to use at at steam power plants like these. So we're going to set up two more on this side. I just happen to have pre-produced a handful of these guys, and now we're going to connect the water around the corner. I just want to show you guys that. So we have this one pipe of water here. You can just branch off the water like this. So you take some of your pipe and you just set it over like that. And now we use the pipe to ground thingy and connect it there. And this way now both boiler columns will be provided with the water you need. You can't just branch up these pipes like you need them to. No problem, no biggie. The pipes can transport fluids over really long stretches of terrain before you get into any trouble. So you see here we have that icon here telling us that our power turbines are not connected yet. Let's change that. If the steam turbines aren't connected to the power grid, they don't provide it to the power grid. So we have now 7.2 megawatts, and that's something we can work with. So we have also increased our power production, so we're going to increase our coal production on the at the same moment. So you might already be asking yourself, how many of these do I actually need? And how many miners do I need for that job? So we're going to calculate all these things later in the series a little bit more in detail. I can already say so much, or two things I want to mention here. First off, if you notice that the coal gets consumed faster than it is being produced, then you're obviously not producing enough. That's the easiest way to see it. Another thing worth knowing is that while your production, or no, your hunger for power is very low, your power plant does not burn fuel. It's basically right now only running one of the boilers to produce power. The other three boilers are stacked with fuel, but they won't be activated until the power is actually needed. Okay, so for today, it is time to say goodbye to our brave burner mining drills. Their times are over now. We're going to change up things from today. So I'm going to keep these dudes here alive as long as they are, as long as I can, but these will all be removed. So for today, I have made the plan, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, to show you guys how smelting works when you're not doing it with burner mining drills. this. So first things first, we're going to place down some mining machines on top of the of the iron ore. So when you want to go for that, you see there's one patch where the stone and the iron meet. And if you place your miner on that, you see here expected resources are stone and iron. Avoid these patches for as long as you can, because your miner will provide iron and stone in changing rhythms. So you will not have the same material on in production at the whole time. Basically, at this spot, we would not have coal here exclusively on the belt, but stone, which we wouldn't need. So be careful with these things. I'm going to show you how you can separate those buggers later as well. So for today, we're placing down like 4 of these guys next to each other and provide them with power. Like I mentioned in the episodes before, the yellow arrow shows where the ore will be output. And now we got this. We connect this with a conveyor belt, and now we have iron ore on the conveyor belt. Neat, isn't it? So we can now just connect these furnaces right next to that. And let's craft ourselves some further inserters, but oh no, we're out of copper. Let's change that. And while we're down there, we might be as well just getting power down there and starting to smelt some copper plates ourselves, because, you know, the more things you can automate in Factorio, the easier the game gets. Factorio is, after all, a game about automation. To large degrees it is. So we're going to set up our mining machines for now like that. So 4 miners are way more than I'll need for now, but little do I care. There's one wonderful thing. Rest assured, every little bit you overproduce will be used one day. No worries about that. Okay, so now we can start producing inserters again. I'm reproducing my mining machines because I already know that we're going to need them. So we're placing down our furnaces here like that, and now let's connect them with inserters. Once again, arrow goes into the direction where the good is going to be dropped, and the bar is headed towards the direction where the good is supposed to be picked up. So we're doing this. They got no power. Let's change that. No! Oh, I hate it. Oh, we have to do this. So what happens here now, though, is that we ain't got no fuel. So for now, we're just going to provide that manually, as much as I dislike that. And now we're going to put up another belt, because, you know, we're going to do this like that. And you know what? Let's do this. So we have now copper belts on copper plates on the belt. You can't just step over here and hold down the F key to loot them into your inventory. But we have one serious problem here. We don't have any permanent supply of fuel here. So the coal that we're supplying right now will eventually burn off. So let's build ourselves some extra inserters because we're going to need them. Now, we have already a supply of coal here, so let's supply ourselves some extra coal down there. And place down some extra power poles. And now we're going to pick up our conveyor belt and let that stuff run down there. But sadly enough, we're out of conveyor belts, so let's craft ourselves some more there. And as a matter of fact, we're going to need coal for that spot over there as well, so let's provide there too. This right now is, of course, a method of providing coal to the entire system, which I personally don't deem too effective or too... yeah, too effective. So we're going to optimize on that later down the road. But for now, for the sake of explanations, we're going to do this like that. I'll be showing you later how we're going to go for more efficient smelter arrays, of course, as well. But for today, I just want to explore the concept of these things. So, we got ourselves the inserters now. And we got ourselves the coal now. But as you see here, the distance here is too high for the yellow inserters to pick up. And that's where the red inserters come into play. You see here, the bar is now touching the further away belt. And that's how we can do this. So we have a problem though with the power poles here. As you see here, they're not reaching through here. They're not reaching through here. So in the very, very early stages of the game, I like to make things like that. So if we keep that spacing like this, we can put the power poles in between and they don't make any further trouble. So as you see here now, the red dudes are picking up the coal and feeding it in there. The yellow dudes are picking up the other stuff there. And we got our first truly automated plate production. This will now run as long as the patches are not running dry. So as long as the miners are running, this will be running as well. So here's another thing that I wanted to show you guys, but one thing at a time. Let's finish that thing first. There's there's different methods, of course, to feed those smelters, and more experienced players might be already frowning about how I'm doing this, because as you see here, the investment of inserters and belts is quite heavy. There is a method to make things only 50% as heavy in terms of belts and inserters, so let's make that happen. But before I do so, I want to change up things here a bit. You know, I'm growing extremely tired of making these transport belts all myself. And we got some assemblers. So we're now going to set up some assemblers that are going to produce conveyor belts for us. And then I'm going to show you how you can compactify this a little bit. Now, let's place down the first assembler and let's check it out. We want to produce transport belt. We see that transport belt needs iron plate. Check, we already got that. And iron gear wheel. We ain't got that. So we're going to place down two assemblers then. So the first assembler will make iron gear wheels for us, and the second one will make the transport belts for us. So we're going to put up one inserter picking up the iron plates for this dude, and another inserter transporting the iron gear wheels into this machine. So this way we're providing iron gear wheels. And as you see here, they're being produced and they're being transported over there. Of course, we need the iron plate as well. No biggie, we got that already. And that's that. We got ourselves a first production of something automated. So we're now going to place down another chest. And voila. This thing now, we're going to limit it. I've already shown you how to limit things. You left click that X. And then you mouse over where you want to have it and left click one more time. So I'm going to put it down like that because I already know that we're going to need large amounts of transport belt, really large amounts. So this thing can keep producing for me. I don't mind. So let's pick up some iron plates nevertheless, so we can handcraft a little bit more. And let's get down to the copper smelting place. Usually, I wouldn't be separating my coal production like that as well. This is also something we're going to fix up later, or you already might come up with a more efficient idea by yourself. So we're going to go all the way down here, riding the belt to be a little bit faster. And now, as you see here, your belt has two halves, so to say. This belt here on the lower half is being filled with copper ore. And this belt here, on the same belt at the topmost half, is empty. So we're going to connect our coal belt like that now. So watch what's happening now. As I see here, these conveyors are hitting each other now, and already might have assumed it, the coal is now flowing on the topmost half of that belt. And this way, we don't need two assemblers like that, because as you see here, let's strip away the inserters can pick up both items as needed from this thing. So this way, you can easily set up smelting arrays that have both ingredients on the same side. This has only limits in terms of how many furnaces you're able to put up on one belt, but we're going to explore the limits of these things on another episode when we're talking about ratios and the like, but I don't want to talk about that today. So for now, I'm just going to pick up these plates, or at least I'm trying to before the conveyor belts leave me, and we're going to pick up those plates and transport them all the way up there. So let's see how far our machines got in our absence. So 100 transport belts have been already made, and this should be more than enough to lead that stuff over here. So here we go. We got copper plates. Remember, we needed copper plates and iron gear wheels to get the ball rolling with the laboratories. So now we are a little bit in an issue here, because we need the copper plates up here or the iron plates down here, depending on your perspective, but the coal belt is in the way. So we're going to research logistics real quickly here in between, because that tech will provide the necessary tools for us to solve that problem. Afterwards, I'm going to set up an automated production of these red science packs, because, you know, we got all the necessary materials for that. We just need to set up the machines to do that for us, because there's really no need to do that manually anymore. This way we can then research things while building the factory in the meantime. Alright, so I hope I've put up enough of these packages. What's looking good? Yeah. Okay. Now, as you see here, while I'm doing other stuff, we're producing more and more transport belt. That's how it should be. So we've unlocked now logistics. This technology opens up underground belts and splitters. Underground belts are basically the same as the underground pipes are, just for conveyor belts. So let's build ourselves one, and we're just going to pick up all the copper plates like that. And now you can just use that thing. Underground belt. Let's make ourselves a couple of them extra. And then you can just put it up there. And as you see here, it's very similar to the underground pipes. As long as they are connected via these yellow thingies, they're going to be transporting stuff underground. If not, then not. So we got the copper plates now. Let's get rid of the laboratories there. I don't really think that this is the best spot for a lab. And now we are able to do things here. So as you see here, we're using up a lot of that iron plate already, but well, no need not to use more. So let's make it like that, and I'm going to show you the usage of splitters here right away. So a splitter allows you to make two belts out of one, so to say. So I'm going to put it up here, and now we're going to put it down like there. So what happens now is 50% of the plates that are put in here are put into that gate are being transported there, and the other 50% over there. This means, of course, that this machinery here will now receive less materials, so handle with care. But for our thing here, it's going to be just fine. We're going to put up another iron gear wheel factory here, because we need more, obviously. Let's see, we're out of iron plates. Let's pick up some extra as well. And rotate that. And now we can do a very similar thing. We're doing the red science packs here. Oh, I'm out of pulse. Let's reproduce a couple of them. And there we go. So now we're producing the iron gear wheels there and producing the red science packs here. Another way how you could do it would be to output them there. Get another one of them going. And here's a neat thing that I want to show you. So you hold down Shift and click the right mouse button while hovering over a recipe. And then you still hold down Shift and press the left mouse button. And then you can copy it. So you don't need to create the same recipe over and over again. So we're now going to create ourselves some of these guys. And as you see there, we're now going to use inserters to pick up the gear wheels from there, bar to the belt, and arrow to the machine. And now we got that. But as you see here, we now have the problem, where to go with the flasks. So we're going to put this like that. And now we're going to use our friends, the red inserters, one more time. Oopsie. To get the flasks out of the machines for us. Don't mind the power pole spaghetti. Okay, so we're now outputting this like that. Another option would be to just fuse the copper plates and the gear wheels together on one belt. You have plenty of options. What's important to know, though, is that every inserter, if he puts something from a machine on a belt, he'll always use the side of the belt that's furthest away from it. So you'll never be able to output to the close side of the belt, so to say. It's always the far side of the belt. These things look a little bit complicated at first, and for me, it took a while to get into it, I admit that. But at the same time, you can do crazy things with belts, and we're just starting out with our belt magic. So I'm amping up these a little bit, and this little thing here is now producing science for us, and the last thing missing here is now to put up the laboratories here. Wait a second, I'm going to show you another neat little thing that you can do with the labs. Let's put up 2 inserters here, and as you see here, these laboratories feed each other until they all have the same spread of science packs there. So we're now easily able to research more things. So we're going to start researching now as the next step. First off, we're going to go for, none of these are too important for the tutorial. No, we're going to go for the logistics science packs. As you see here, this is a green colored science pack, and it's very, very similar to the red one we already know. So it's going to be the next step to unlock even more modern technologies. This whole complex here is a really small thing, and we're definitely going to need to upgrade that at some point. Here's another thing that I wanted to show. Let's dismantle all that. And get rid of these guys. Now let's compactify this little thing. So here's one thing. If you go for something like that, your belt will be a catastrophe. As you see here, we're mixing the coal now on the wrong side, and that's not what we want. But if you go like that, and you're missing it, and you go on the second spot there, you connect it like that. So if you like leave the first spot of the next belt empty and then go into the curve, you can empty the entirety of one belt onto the top side of the other. That's pretty cool and very useful. And that's only one of many little belt tricks that we're going to use over the course of this series. If this is a little bit confusing for you, don't worry. So it has been for me as well, and I started out, but I really hope I can explain these things in a way that they make sense for you. If not, please, by all means, ask away. I'll try my best to explain things. Now, there's really not much more that we're going to do for now, except for making things larger. For now, this is all nice and dandy, but as you see here, we're really producing on very, very low numbers. We only got those a handful of mining machines, we only got a handful of furnaces. This is just not the ideal way of operations. So we're going to think about how many of these things can we actually operate before it just doesn't work anymore in the future. For today, we're going to leave it like that, with the thought that we need to expand and a couple of explanations that might be helpful for you. So if you check this out, you have on every mining drill a mining speed of 0.5 units per second. That means we're right now producing 2 units of ore per second. When you check out these recipes here, things go a little bit more complicated. So you process 1 unit of copper ore in 3.2 seconds of crafting time. So that means roughly you're eating up 0.33 copper per second with one furnace, roughly. But things are getting even more complicated when you have to factor in that machines have different crafting speeds. Luckily, the stone furnace has a crafting speed of 1. So now let's have a quick calculation about that. We're producing 2 units per second, and we have roughly estimated that each furnace is eating up 0.33 of these things per second. So these dudes here would be enough for 6 to 7 furnaces. So let's do that. And this is a very, very important thing in the future of your factories, that you always want to produce the maximum amount of what's possible. That's really, really powerful if the better you learn to pull it off, because, you know, it is at the end of the day a limit of your factory of how much you can produce and what you can produce, most importantly. And since these things are quite nasty to calculate on your own and without the help of a calculator, we're going to introduce in the next episode our first mods. So my plan is to show you guys at the beginning of the next episode how to implement mods into the game, so you can see there just how it's done. And we're going to implement a couple of really easy to use quality of life mods. For starters, I want to have one mod which allows you to just drag and drop and check out if you have enough machines of which type, and basically it's a calculator that shows you how many more machines you'd need of which type to make the most out of it. But I'll explain that in the next episode, and in the further episodes away, we're also going to use a more complex planning tool, because the recipes are not necessarily getting easier, and calculating things in your head is true pain. If you don't want to use any tools for help, if you want to calculate it yourself, I respect that. Another method that I really liked, if that's all too complicated for you and you just want to build, basically, you don't need to calculate at all. There is one thing you just can't do. If there is no iron plate anymore on this belt, I'm not producing enough iron plate. If this entire belt is full with iron plates, while these machines are producing, I'm producing enough or too much iron plate. You can also use that as a navigational beacon for starters, but I highly recommend you to calculate at some point the material necessities for real and optimize your factory. But I'm going to show you how that's done, and next episode we're going to use one tool for that, which is super easy to use and super easy to understand, and it's one of my favorites in that regard, because it's really not complicated, and I want to keep this series as easily understandable as possible. So I hope you guys found that helpful, and if there are any other questions left open, please ask away. Drop me your comments down below. If you have anything on your mind, I'd be super happy to hear from you. And feel free to leave me a thumbs up on that video as well if you enjoyed. And of course, consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. There's daily content coming up from my side, hundreds of videos and lots of other tutorial series hanging around there too. So I'd be super happy to have you. Be that as it may, I hope you have a wonderful day and you join on the next episode when we're going to get ourselves into modding this game and maxing out the mining and smelting in the next episode, and maybe even dip our toes into the production of the next science packs. So that's enough of a preview for today, and see you guys next time. Bye bye.